What is this? I just got recommended a video. What is the Azov Battalion? This is like a pro Azov Battalion video. Like he's like making an unbiased video covering the Azov Battalion. You're gonna make an unbiased video covering Adolf Hitler? All right, let's check this out. This sounds fucking hilarious.
Who are Azov? Azov, or often called the Azov Battalion or later Regiment, is officially called the Azov Special Operations Detachment. They're a unit of the Ukrainian National Guard, created as a volunteer militia in 2014 following the Russian annexation of Crimea and the civil war that broke out in the east, as well as further pro-Russian unrest throughout much of Ukraine. They were formed by, and sources vary, different ultras groups of football hooligans who fight one another from...
That's how you know they're fascists.
...groups such as FC Metallist Kharkiv from the city of Kharkiv or Kharkov. They were called Sect 82, the name of the ultra group based on the year in which the club was founded, and they served during the unrest as a kind of self-proclaimed self-defense force in the cities, particularly as there were those in Kharkiv who were trying to create a separatist state as others had done in Donbass. Following the success...
It's so funny how, like, he's spending so much time essentially giving, like, saying, oh, it's very good that they exist and such without actually telling you who they are. Like, generally, you would introduce who they actually are rather than being like, here's their incredibly righteous reasons for existing.
In putting down the Kharkov People's Republic, they were created as a special task force that worked together with the police in the city.
He's just not interrogating anything about how this happened. Just, they were created as a special task force. Don't ask anything about them being ideological Nazis from the very beginning.
In 2014, they received training from the Georgian Legion in the use of firearms and military tactics, with the idea of being sent to fight against the separatists in the Donbass region, which they did in...
Wow, so they were trained by the Ukrainian military as Nazis.
May 2014, when they took part in the Second Battle of Mariupol, in which they...
This is making everyone involved look worse.
...together with other Ukrainian units...
Feels like he supports the Holocaust.
...separatists, and they have been based there since then. They were often referred to colloquially as the Little Black Men because of their all-black combat fatigues and balaclavas they used in combat. This was a play on the Little Green Men, the name given colloquially to Russian forces who had entered Crimea several months earlier. The Azov are particularly famous and equally controversial, particularly in the West. This is because of the ties of both the recruits and the higher levels in Azov with various neo-Nazi and ultra-nationalist movements.
Oh, just the higher-ups, no one else. Look at the fucking logo. You have a fucking SS runes. You have a fucking Nazi symbol. Are you sure? It's just the higher-ups? It's literally the fucking logo.
I'm consuming. For example, the symbol of Azov is often compared to the Nazi symbol of the Wolfsangel, which was used by various
it literally is
SS regiments, despite the fact that many of the Azov members claim that this is just the letters of N and I in Ukrainian combined together, meaning national idea, one of their slogans. However, it doesn't just end there, as the founder of Azov and the
how he ignores
to
the fucking symbol in the back. You know, the same symbol used by the fucking Christchurch shooter in his manifesto. You know, this symbol of Nazism and white supremacy. That symbol right there.
Feels like he supports the Holocaust.
This is the same symbol. But hey, this one is very slightly different, a slightly different rendition. But the maker of this video has decided to ignore the elephant in the room or the Nazi rune in the logo and just address the one in the front, at least which there's some level of deniability for, and ignore the one in the back. We're not Nazis. We just really like Nazi symbols.
Used by various SS that this meaning national idea.
Like, he's just like quoting them. Oh, they've refuted this. It's obviously bullshit. Like, you know, a good documentary or account of a group or something doesn't just recite their excuses without interrogating them and being like, but that's obviously bullshit.
one of their slogans. However, it doesn't just end there, as the founder of Azov, Andriy Beletsky, is himself a famous white supremacist who has previously spoken about leading the white races in crusades against the Untermenschen. Furthermore, it was claimed that around 10 to 20% of the group were neo-Nazis.
Only 10 to 20%? I guess everyone else who's associating themselves with the fucking neo-Nazi regiment isn't a neo-Nazi, right? Like, there's no other militia they could join. Their only option is the Azov Battalion.
From sources within the group, and various interviews with group members have shown that these kinds of ideas are very common and accepted among them. The political commentator Ivan Kachanovsky has even said that the SNU/Patriot of Ukraine, a party later founded by the founder of Azov, advocates a neo-Nazi ideology along with ultranationalism and racism. The same applies to members of the Azov Battalion and many football ultras and others who serve in this formation. This has been jumped on by the Russian state in particular, who claimed part of its reason for invasion was denazifying Ukraine. They often paint Azov as a group that wants to exterminate any Russian speakers inside Ukraine.
Yeah, they
However,
are.
this doesn't seem to hold up, as most members of Azov actually speak Russian together, and this is the lingua franca used by the battalion and later regiment during combat.
So they speak Russian. That doesn't mean that they aren't anti-Russian. By the way, when they say Untermensch, they mean Slavs. Even though they are Slavs, this guy is clearly very historically ignorant. That word mostly referred to Slavs when Nazis used it. And the thing is, these Ukrainians, who are obviously Slavs themselves, nonetheless consider themselves honorary Aryans based on precedents established during World War II by Ukrainian Nazi collaborators who were essentially given honorary Aryan status by the Nazis. So when they say Untermensch, they're literally talking about Russians. That's who they're talking about. Russians. No one else. Because they consider themselves to be special non-Slavs. And the only people who they could be talking about with those are Jews and Slavs. That's what they mean. Oh, hold on. I just realized he's just reading the Wikipedia article. I just went to it in another window and it just word for word the fucking Wikipedia article. I've talked about this a few times before, like how a lot of history channels on YouTube just plagiarize the Wikipedia article. Yeah, it's the introduction to the Wikipedia article cited verbatim. Here's the part of them representatives saying that it actually stands for national idea. And then the 10 to 20% Nazi part right after that. And then talking about the leader who is also mentioned in the intro. Like, it's straight up a wiki article plagiarized.
Furthermore, they have around 50 Russian members, most of them ultranationalists.
Wow, 50 Russians who are being accepted as honorary Aryans. There's precedence for that. The fucking Nazis did it. Literally, the Azov's founding member, Andrei Beletsky, leader of the neo-Nazi Social National Assembly, made statements about a historic mission to lead the white races of the world in a final crusade for their survival. A crusade against the Semite-led Untermenschen. That is Nazism. That is what the Nazis believed. Exactly. That Eastern Slavs who were not there, who were not collaborating with them, were a mindless horde, basically like a zombie horde of Untermenschen, led by a Jewish cabal, pulling their strings. Literally, that he just recited Nazism one for one, which is explicitly anti-Russian. Obviously, it was also anti-Ukrainian, but these guys believe themselves to be a special fucking honorary Aryans or whatever. So the guy's trying to whitewash them as not actually being anti-Russian, even though they are literally repeating verbatim Nazi anti-Slav ideology, except applying it specifically to Russians in this case. Let's see if this whitewashing is in the article, or if this is actually original research. Oh, the little green men thing is also from the fucking wiki article. Everything that he's saying is in the wiki article. At least so far. Oh, yeah, no. 50 Russian nationals and members of the Azov regiment. Straight from Wikipedia. So that him bringing up the languages they speak is at least not in the wiki. That's one thing out of everything.
Serving in the battalion as well. In September of 2014, the group was made an official part of the national...
That's also in the introduction to the wiki article, just beat for beat wiki article.
god of Ukraine as a result of further military developments inside Ukraine. And in March 2015, as an official part of the military,
This one's also in the fucking wiki article. He's just defending them by citing the wiki article over and over again. This is such a perfect example of the way that most history YouTube channels are just like rephrasing and reorderings of Wikipedia articles. This is like the most beat for beat example. It's a particularly obvious one. They're usually not this blatant about it.
they received training from United States forces. However, in June 2015, they were particularly in the media because the Canadian forces had said they wouldn't be training Azov.
Hey, this one's also from the Wikipedia article. Right here. Literally every talking point is in the
because of their
Wikipedia.
neo-Nazi ties, and the United States followed suit. However, this was overturned again in
God.
November 2015, meaning that US forces would in fact be training and supplying Azov. In 2019, members of the Democrat Party in the United States wanted to have the group branded as
Feels
a foreign
like he
terrorist
supports the
organization,
Holocaust.
so this attempt ultimately failed. This is particularly following claims made by the OHCHR.
You know, you notice how he's not taking like any solid stance on them being Nazis, which is absolutely fucking mainstream. Everyone knows that they're Nazi. They are a right-wing extremist neo-Nazi. Even Wikipedia says it. This guy's just trying to make it out like, you know, there's plausible deniability there. Sure, maybe 10 to 20% of them are neo-Nazis, but does that really make them neo-Nazis? I mean, their logo only has the fucking Great Replacement symbol in it.
The Office of the
Black
United
Sun.
Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, that the group had engaged in torture of civilians and soldiers, as well as indiscriminate looting of civilians in the east of Ukraine. There were also protests in Israel, as Israel was one of the countries supplying Ukraine with weapons, because some of these weapons might end up in the hands of Azov members. Although, as always, these things are incredibly complex, because there are, in fact, as hard as it is to believe, also Jewish members of... also Jewish Ukrainians serving inside the battalion, and none are more...
There were Jewish Jewish Germans who joined the fucking Nazis, man. These guys like, I have a black friend. Hey, these Nazis have a Jewish friend. He's literally going to cite one Jewish guy.
more outspoken than Nathan Chazin, who was interviewed by BBC Ukrainian and who has a flag of the famous right sector using the Ukrainian insurgent army
Wow,
flag
he has another fascist group.
with a Star of David superimposed on it. And he claims there are also other Jewish members of the battalion. It's also true that the founder, Andriy Biletsky, says that Japan and Israel are his two nations that he most draws inspiration from in terms of what kind of government he would
Do you
want.
see how idiotic this guy is? He doesn't understand. He probably understands. He just wants to whitewash them. You know why he draws inspiration from Japan and Israel? Because they are ethno-states. They are states that essentially only allow one ethnicity to live in them with full rights. That's why, or at least he perceives them as. I'm not sure if that's actually true in the case of Japan, but it's a common perception in the West that that's what Japan is like. That's why he likes them. It's not that he likes Jews or that he's not racist against Asian people. It's that he thinks that at least what they do there should be replicated in Ukraine.
Ah, I'm consuming.
And for him, that means excluding Russians who are Untermensch. This guy is a complete fucking moron.
So perhaps it's better to describe Azov as an ultra-nationalist formation rather than an explicitly neo-Nazi one.
No, neo-Nazis fucking love Israel and Japan, at least as an example of what they want to do, because they want a state of only what they consider to be, like, you know, worthy white people, where no one else is allowed to live there. That's why they talk about this, because those two countries are, at least they perceive them as being countries, you know, they perceive Israel as being a country that's only for Jews, and Japan is a country that's only for Japanese people. That's why they like them, as a model, not as, like, ideologically. God, he's so stupid. History of Hilbert. Like, the second that he tries to go beyond Wikipedia, let's see if this is accurate. This is probably in the wiki article. No, it's also from the Wikipedia article. It's literally from the Wikipedia article. It's all from the Wikipedia article. This fucking guy. Despite accusations the group is anti-Semitic, some members of the Jewish community in Ukraine support and serve in the Azov Battalion. One of its most prominent members is Nathan Chazin, leader of the Jewish Hundreds during the 2013 Euromaidan protests in Kiev. In an interview, Andriy Biletsky explained that he regards Israel and Japan as role models for the development of Ukraine. It's right there. His defense of Azov is just straight up from fucking Wikipedia. Oh.
The final point of interest is that it has been claimed that most members of Azov follow Rodnovere, a kind of Slavic neo-paganism, and that they have built a temple to the Slavic god Perun inside Mariupol. Now, in August 2015, the group was actually pulled back from active fighting in the east as part of the Minsk Accords, and they were then used as more of a police force in the rest of the country. But now in
Wow, using the neo-Nazis as a police force, that's definitely nothing to fucking be concerned about.
2022, with the Russian invasion, they've been sent to the front lines again, and in classically controversial Azov style, they released a video in which they were smearing bullets in pig fat and claiming that they were going to be fighting the Muslim Chechen soldiers of the Russian Federation while using these bullets.
Like, he doesn't actually take any conclusion from these terrible things about them. He just like states it and then moves on to whitewashing them. It's all from the fucking wiki article. It's a Wikipedia whitewash. Guy cites the Wikipedia article, ignores the right conclusion that it draws about them being neo-Nazis, and just like makes statements over and over again. He doesn't understand anything. He's just a guy who reads you the Wikipedia article, but he reorders it a little bit and manipulates it to kind of conform with what he wants you to believe. What's the average history YouTuber for you? Man, that was...
He is a callous, bottom-feeding scavenger of the lowest order.
That was very interesting.